Hi, everybody, and welcome to Accounting with Confidence. This week we are talking about how to create the quarterly comparative P&L that is going to be needed for the second, or is it the third round of the PPP loans. So banks are starting to preemptively get in touch with their clients and say, hey, this round of additional funding is coming, and there are criteria around how you qualify. So today we're going to talk about what that criteria is and how you can check and see if you are qualifying. And we will be talking about how to run this report in both desktop and the online version. So who am I? I am Beth Whitworth, and I am a CPA here in St. Louis, Missouri. I've been working in QuickBooks and been a CPA for more than 25 years. And QuickBooks is primarily what we work with inside of the practice. We work with both QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop, all versions, and everybody in our practice is a pro advisor or an advanced pro advisor so that we can assist firms and clients with their work inside of QuickBooks. So let's talk about the PPP and what really needs to be happening before you're running the reports. So the new legislation that has come out is that there will be additional PPP funding for companies who had at least a 25% reduction in gross revenues from any single quarter in 2020 versus that same quarter in 2019. And so what that means essentially is you lost sales, and you lost sales in at least one quarter, being a calendar quarter, during 2020. And you lost sales of at least 25% in that quarter. Even if, by the end of the year, you recouped some of those sales and your revenues were not down by a whole 25%, they are recognizing the fact that in specific quarters, especially at the beginning of the pandemic and when businesses were starting to be shut down, that businesses were having a drastic loss in revenue in a specific quarter. Be aware, though, you don't get to pick a 3-month window. So March, April, May is not a calendar quarter. April, May, June is. January, February, March is. So you can't, even though the pandemic was really split across quarters and obviously is still ongoing, they're looking at calendar quarters. So what is going to be important to know is exactly how much your revenues were down by quarter, and being able to show that to the bank involves running a profit and loss statement. I've seen many people questioning, how are they going to prove this? How are they going to prove that they had a loss? Should we be using reports from their website or, their merchant service account? No, you really need to have your books up to date, and you need to have your year end completed. So before you're running any reports, you need to make sure that you've really gotten all of your transactions for 2020 into QuickBooks. You've gotten them in, because if you're a cash basis type of payer, you may or may not have those sales recorded until you have entered the deposits off of the bank statement. You want to make sure that everything is up to date, even though they're really only looking at gross revenues to qualify for the PPP. There's no reason to just focus on the revenue line. Go ahead, make sure all of your transactions are in for 2020. You also want to make sure that your bank accounts are reconciled. So especially for those who are a cash basis type of taxpayer, you want to make sure that your deposits are reconciling to what is in QuickBooks. You want to make sure that you don't have deposits that haven't cleared, that maybe they were duplicates, and you want to make sure that those have been cleaned out of your system so they are not counting towards those numbers. At this point, we do not know if they are going to come back and want to reconcile to a 2020 tax return, whether it's a Schedule C because you're a sole proprietor that shows gross revenues, or, a partnership or an S corporation that would show gross revenues on the return. We don't know. So the answer for me would be you want to make sure you're as close as possible to what's going to be reported on your tax return. The third thing you want to make sure that you have done is that if you're keeping track of customer accounts via accounts receivable, you want to review anything you have open and make sure that is accurate. For instance, you could have a situation where you have accidentally billed somebody twice, they paid the bill, you still show an open receivable, but they don't really owe it. So you want to make sure that those are removed and corrected inside of QuickBooks prior to running these reports, because that could inflate your numbers. And because this is a system where, we don't know what's going to happen when they come back to look at things, and they have left everything open to say that you could be audited on these things at any time. You want to be as accurate as possible. So if there's no other accounts other than your bank accounts and your accounts receivable getting reviewed before you're providing these reports, those are the two, in my opinion, that will make the biggest difference. Okay, so those are the things I think you should get done before you're running any of the reports. And so now we're just going to jump in, and I'm going to show you how to get a report that shows, in one report, shows quarterly revenues versus last year and what the percent change is. So we're going to jump over to this online demo, and I'm going to work in QuickBooks Online first. Okay, so here we are inside of ABC Company, and I'm going to go to Reports. And if you're defaulting up here to your standard report, I am just starting with a basic profit and loss report. You don't need to try to start with a year-to-date comparison or anything. We're just going to start with the profit and loss. And so here it's bringing it up for the most recent period, which doesn't have a lot of information because it's 2021. And I'm going to scroll up and come to Report Period and choose Last Year. And that will change the dates to last year. I'm going to stop in Display Columns By, and I'm going to choose Quarters. So that will allow the report to go across the page by quarter instead of by total. Then I'm going to come over to Compare with another period, and I'm going to choose Previous Year. And I'm going to choose the percent change because that is the number that we are interested in figuring out if we even qualify. And then I'm going to hit Run Report. I'm going to close over here so we can get a little bit more space. And what you can see is it's created a quarterly report for the profit and loss, and it gives you the total for the year. So for this company, the total is down 18.79%. And we're looking at top line. So if you have multiple lines that create your sales income, you can look at multiple lines, but you don't want to look at things that include other income, that include discounts or refunds. You're looking at gross revenues. And so the top line here's first quarter. This is 2020, this is 2019. It was down 15.64%. Here we are in the second quarter, 2020, 2019, it was down almost 50%. So that quarter right there immediately qualifies this entity to be able to apply for the PPP. So words of caution for whether you're using online or QuickBooks Desktop is if you received any funding already from the PPP, the EIDL grant, you do not want to include those in this sales income number. Those should be considered as other income, and they should come in down here. Okay? So you do not want those in your gross revenue numbers. So if the deposit came in and you automatically posted it straight to sales, you need to fix that. I probably should add that as number 4 on my slide, that should not be included in your gross numbers. So here we are, we're down 50, we're only down 1% in the third quarter, and fourth quarter is actually up. So that quarter right there would qualify this entity. So that's all you need to do in order to run this report, and you can print that And you can provide that to your bank so that you can prove that. I suggest that you leave it in the format of a profit and loss, because that is a complete report that a bank would be normally looking at. So if you came in here and said, well, let me just pick and choose a certain few accounts, so that I'm only showing them certain things, I think, you're leaving out the fact that you actually do have a complete profit and loss statement, that you didn't just shove all this into some Excel spreadsheet, and you want to really make sure that it looks complete. So hopping over to the QuickBooks desktop file, same situation. You want to make sure that if you had any grant income, loan income, that you didn't include it in your sales number. And we're going to come up to reports. We're going to come down to company and financial, and just to choose the very top line, which is profit and loss standard. Okay, we're going to come to customize report. And the first thing we're going to change is the dates. And again, we're going to come down and choose last fiscal year so that it shows the whole year of last year. We are going to display columns by quarter. And we're going to add subcolumns for the previous year and percent change. And we're going to click OK here. And you're going to get the same thing. So here we are, we're looking at top line. Here's their fee for services is what it's called in this entity. And first quarter, they're down 31.9. Second quarter, they're down 13.5. And then they're coming back up at 3.6. And then here in this last quarter, they're down almost 24%. And for the year, they're down 18%. So the first quarter would qualify them for additional PPP funds. Okay, so you're just going to run this report. You're going to print it out, and that's what you're going to provide to your bank. Again, make sure that all your transactions are in, all your banks are reconciled, no loan or grant income is included in your number, and you've reviewed your accounts receivable to make sure that they are accurate and that you don't have any duplicate invoices or things that just shouldn't be included in income still sitting in your accounts receivable. All right, so I hope that helps in order to get people started with figuring out whether or not they even qualify for this new round. This is something that is going to be starting, I'm sure, sometime in January. We are waiting for the guidance to come out in the next in this first week of January. So you'll want to be ready. And so what you can do to get ready is to make sure that you are hopping into that bookkeeping and making sure that you have everything up to date, that you have everything reconciled, and that you know how to generate this report from the get-go to find out if you even qualify, so you know if you need to move forward with the application for funds. All right, everybody, this is how you can stay connected with me. As always, like my Facebook page we're at WLXCo on Facebook. You can check out my website, and that's where you can get to all my videos in the videos section that has been going on for the last several months. And if you have any questions at all, you can always email me at beth@WLXCo.com. Thanks, everybody.